Hi, folks. Thanks for joining the first show. Sorry for the technical difficulties. This is the Three Things I Learned podcast. I am Chris Michaels. I'm your host, and I'm happy that you've decided to join us. And if you like this show, please share it with somebody, at least just one person, because chances are there's something that you get from this or that you think at least one other person can benefit from. Today's show, I hope, will set the tone of amazing content that we're going to have throughout the year. I have friends from Cirque du Soleil, a gold medalist, people who have just been on TV forever, actors and actresses, a lot of familiar faces throughout my network. And my first guest this week is also going to be somebody that I'm sure that everybody will be able to benefit from the content and everything that he's going to talk about. One thing that I think, we've talked, or at least I've been promoting this show as 3 things I've learned from beating cancer. 13 million people each year are diagnosed with cancer. And chances are that you either know someone who's been diagnosed, or you yourself been diagnosed. And Owen my guest today, is going to come on and share his story about the 3 things he's learned from beating cancer. And I hope that we will all learn some amazing things. I know every time I talk to him, it's just awesome. So with that, we'll get into the show. This is the 3 Things I've Learned podcast. Well, thank you so much, Owen. You were just about to take a sip of water, I know, as I put you on the air here. But thank you so much for joining on my show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Owen Video. He is a marketing extraordinaire, video extraordinaire, and just a roundabout amazing guy that I think everyone should follow his YouTube channel and Facebook channels if you're doing anything in video. But Owen, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we're jumping into a tough topic right off the bat, but I'd love to, can you share a little bit about your story? Tell us a little bit about your life and what you're doing, and just everything that makes Owen Owen.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Chris, and it's great to be on your show. I hope that we cover some impactful ground today, because what I'm going to share with you is sort of like the story of my life. It's there's these events that happen to you that separate your life into 2 sections, right? Everything that happened before this event, and then everything that happened after this event. And cancer was one of those things, because I never thought ever that I would get cancer. And since having cancer, it's completely changed the way that I do everything. So to give you guys a little bit of background, I was born a poor black child on the bayou of Mississippi. No, I'm kidding. That's from The Jerk. It's from Steve Martin's The Jerk. It's just an incredible way to open up a story. But I've always been a healthy person. Athletics, sports in high school, and I live life with zeal. I live to the fullest, and I always have. I married a beautiful woman, the girl of my dreams. In fact, she was just kind of walking around the house yesterday, and I looked at her and I laughed, and she goes, "What are you laughing about?" I said, "This is my life, that you're my wife. These kids are my kids. Like this, what did I do to deserve this?" And the answer is nothing. It's all by the grace of God. But I have a wife. I have 4 beautiful kids. I have a business that allows me to work at home with my kids. And we were approaching some of the the best years of our business and of our life when I noticed that I was losing weight. And at first I thought, wow, I look fantastic, and then I kept losing weight and I lost color in my face, and I developed a real strong side ache. It felt like indigestion. And so I was taking like Tums, right? I developed flu-like symptoms or cold-like symptoms. So I'm taking like um, Dayquil, right? And NyQuil, and waking up in the middle of the night just completely drenched in sweat. I mean, I talking about like dripping from every part of my body, my legs, my chest, my head. My hair is completely soaking wet. I had to take the shirt off. I was going through like shirts a night. Uh, and then there was a day where I was just on the couch, just sort of crying and wondering if this was the rest of my life. Like, it never even occurred to me that I was sick. It's just like, what's going on? I mean, sick with cancer, and I remember thinking, is this my life? And then through a series of really aggressive trips to the ER. You go to the ER, and the doctor came out such an arrogant D-bag. He comes out, he's like, nothing's wrong with you, bro. Nothing's wrong with you, bro. But don't worry, it's all in your head. This happens to a lot of people. Probably under a lot of stress. And I remember being so like fueled with
a lot of stress being in San Diego, surfer country, having a simple life, right? This isn't like you're living in New York City and working 60, 70 hours a week, right? You're in paradise.
We've all got stress, you know what I mean? But to kind of take a look at me in so much pain, and to even just look at my eyeballs and how sunken my eyeballs were, like I look at those pictures of me now and I'm like, how could you not tell that I was sick, because it looks so obvious to me. But at this time, this doctor came in and he, it was midnight at this point and I was ready to go home. And so we went home, and then we went back again the next day, and my wife was furious. My wife, yeah, there you go. My wife came with me, and he was like, we're not leaving until, and they didn't even run a CT scan, right? They didn't even run that. So they're just like, you don't need to, it's stress. We ran the CT scan, and there was almost like the whole atmosphere in the hospital changed. And I became the guy in the emergency room that had a 12-centimeter tumor in my chest. The doctors knew it. Nobody knew anything, and I knew something was different because they were treating me different, and that's what they told me.
So 12 centimeters, I mean, just for a reference point, about a little bit smaller than a baseball, somewhere in that range.
A grapefruit size.
Yeah. So we've got something grapefruit softball size, actually bigger than a baseball.
Softball, yeah.
Yeah, sitting in there in your chest. I mean, is this like attached to your heart? Is it in your lungs? Like, what was the diagnosis?
It's okay. So it's called thymoma, and we all have a thymus gland, and the thymus gland is right above our lungs. It's next to the heart area, and what had happened is, for most people, the thymus eventually shrinks away and becomes almost unnoticeable. The thymus plays a role in fighting allergies, which is now a part of my news story. My thymus decided to explode into this grapefruit-sized behemoth. And it was pushing on veins and nerves. So I was feeling it in my lower ribs, but it was actually right here. And so I had the doctors, they cut me open. I have an 8-inch scar down here. They had to remove it. And then that was called a subtotal resection. The subtotal resection means that it was sub the total. So they didn't get all of it out. And because they didn't get all of it out, we had to begin a pretty aggressive chemotherapy and radiation regimen, which changed my body forever.
Now, and this is something that you're always going to live with. At least, you're always going to have to go in for checkups, right? You've got to go in for like an annual CT or some sort of scan, correct?
Yeah, I've got my next scan coming up, and I'm a little nervous. I mean, I'm very nervous. I am very nervous. But it's part of my life now. And that's part of what I want to talk about today is managing, your belief management. That's one of the three things I want to talk about today there's always going to be something. And as I get older, I'm not quite 40 yet. I've got a couple years to go, but I'm reaching on 40, which is a milestone age. And I associate with a lot of gentlemen that are older than me, and I like to be around guys that can teach me stuff and show me, what they've learned in their life. And one thing I'm noticing is that everybody has their thing, right? Like I've got a good buddy who's dealing with sciatica so bad it makes him limp. And this is a young man. He's got less gray hair than I do. Dealing with sciatica so bad he limps everywhere that he goes. I've got another friend dealing with, or a cousin actually, dealing with kidney failure. He's younger than me. Everybody has their thing, right, that they have to deal with, and this is my thing.
Yeah. So, before we jump into the three things, and I know there are three things, I guess what was the biggest change for you, knowing that this had happened and knowing that, you had gone through a period of recognizing that there had been change in your body, physical change, but after the surgery and after the preventative things, like, what's been the biggest, life change or what do you embrace the most, now having come out the other side and beaten it and said, screw you, cancer. I'm not going to be beaten by you. I'm going to walk with my head held high and know that I'm a champion today. So what else impacts you?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for me is the deal with cancer brought me face to face with my mortality in a real way. I don't mean I got in a car accident and I was faced with my mortality. I don't mean, I went bungee jumping and I was faced with my own mortality. I mean, I'm talking about on a daily basis, I was surrounded by death. And when you get to be a part of the cancer community, and there is a cancer community, you meet people that don't make it out. Shortly after I was diagnosed, a very good family friend of ours, her son was diagnosed, and he didn't make it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're approached with those things, you have to ask yourself, what matters? What am I living for?
Mm-hmm.
And through that journey, my purpose in life became incredibly clear, and that is to raise my kids the right way, to be a fully functional and active dad first, and everything else comes after that. Part of that as well is being an active dad meant being an active husband.
Mm-hmm.
And becoming more focused on my marriage and building my marriage up to be something extraordinary, and it is. In fact, my wife and I not only have an amazing marriage, we've started a marriage coaching company where we upload videos to YouTube and we talk about marriage topics. We counsel couples. We call ourselves marriage coaches, right? So we're actually working with a couple right now that's been to like 7 counselors, and they're finally starting to have some breakthroughs with us, which is really neat to see. We help other couples have the type of marriage that we have, and that's that's my purpose in life. All the video stuff that we do is great, and I love it, and I'm passionate about it. But it fuels, and it funds the other things that we do, and those are the things that are our legacy things. Those are the things that are going to take us, way beyond our lives, and also those things that impact our community. And those are those things that are beyond your own personal wealth and your own personal fame, where we're in a place where these are the things that matter in life, and so finding my purpose through cancer. And I believe that's why I'm a man of faith. I believe that God allowed this cancer to take over my body so that he could get my attention in a major way that says, you are focusing on things that are not what I made you for. What I made you for was to be an amazing dad to these kids and to be an amazing husband to your wife. And those are now the things that I'm working on.
Right. We're talking with Owen Video, a video mastermind in his own right. With you can see by the YouTube subscribe thing behind him. Please subscribe to his channel and be sure to share links here. But we're talking about the three things he's learned from beating cancer, and I want us to kind of jump into what those big takeaways for you were: beating cancer, coming out the other side, and being this champion. What are, would you say, let's go with number one. What's your biggest takeaway?
So the biggest thing that I learned, first of all, is time management. When I got diagnosed, they put me on the doctor said to me, look, you're a healthy young man, other than cancer, is you're healthy, you're strong. So we are going to annihilate. We're going to nuclear bomb this cancer in your body so that it never comes back again. And he put me on a really aggressive chemotherapy regimen. I'm sure if I thought about it, I could remember the actual drugs, because chemotherapy it's like saying social media, right? There's like so much stuff. So there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's all these different things. So chemo is a bunch of different things, and underneath chemo, there's this type of chemo, that type of chemo, and I was on like this really aggressive. I think it was called adriamycin. That was 4 hours on Monday. 4 hours in a room with nurses and really depressed old people, while this medicine just came into my body. I would go in feeling great, and I would walk out feeling miserable, craving fried food. Then on Tuesday, it was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I would have chemo. And then on Friday, I had to come in and get a new Lasta shot to inject a bunch of healthy stuff, right, into my blood to regenerate what the chemo was stripping me of, right? Chemo is wood stripper for your body. The whole goal of chemo is kill the cancer before the chemo kills you. Right.
And that ends up unfortunately killing healthy cells, which is why, you end up with like Epogen, for increasing red blood cells and all sorts of other medications that go along.
White blood cells. Yeah. And all sorts of stuff. And in fact, this Cooper, who we lost in his, he was beating his cancer, and the chemo gave him a new cancer that he didn't make it out of. So chemo is very destructive, right? The lesson I learned about time management was this: is that I had to. You go into chemo for a week, and not only did you lose that week, but the next week you're just toast. You're just toast. And so I had to kind of be in this place where it's like, all right, how am I going to grow my business, right? I had to ask myself, am I going to grow my business or close my business, right? And I decided that I was going to grow it through cancer. I was going to be very public about it, and I was going to share everything. And that's exactly what I did. I shared everything. And it's all, if you use the hashtag #LifeWins, you go back a couple years on Facebook, you'll see my videos, you'll see them on YouTube. I was very public. I learned a lot about vlogging, by the way, too, which I wish I would have continued to vlog. I'd be a richer man today. But I learned how to manage my time, and I learned things that I'm now charging clients to teach them about time management. I'm able to get, my good friend Gord said, Owen, you do more in this industry than anybody else. I've got YouTube uploads per week. I do a Facebook live show. I have a podcast. I do another show for another company, and I do then another show for another company. Plus, I'm uploading on my wife and I's channel, and we have a family vlog. And let me tell you, I still have more free time than most of the people that I know, because I manage my time properly. And I'm not a hustler. I'm not one of these guys that up till 2 and up at 5. Like, that's not me, man. Like, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I'm done. It's family time. It goes like 7 o'clock, right? 7 o'clock, we eat dinner. The kids go to bed. We have story time with the kids. And then, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, we might get an extra blog done or get some thumbnails done. But after that, I'm done. I go to bed. I wake up at 6. try to sleep in until about 6:30. I get up and I read. I start my day over again. So I'm not one of these like grind guys. You know what I mean? I just manage my time. The other part of that is I outsource whatever I can to grow my business. So I learned a ton about time management, and those things actually turned into grew my business. My business doubled during the time I had cancer, and I only worked 2 weeks out of the month. So in fact, I would go in on Mondays. I would go in on Monday mornings for my 4-hour session, and I would do my mastermind group in the chemotherapy room. The ladies were so sweet. There was this one back room that if I got there early enough, I could go into. So I'd go in early and I'd close the door because I'm a loud talker, and I would coach my clients right there in the room with the chemotherapy attached to my body. I'd be sitting there coaching clients and kind of like lifting my arm up, and they'd be taking my blood pressure, and people are like, "Owen, do you want to be alone for this?" And it's like, no, guys, we're going to do this, or I'm going to shut the doors and die, right? Like we're not going to do the whole Owen can't do this thing. And so time management is the first thing that I wanted to talk about.
So let besides jumping through a schedule, and everybody's got one, and things are always chaotic. Life gets in the way. In your case, having to go to the hospital, having to go through treatments, having to go through everything, plus doing all the amazing things that you're doing for work. I mean, time management, absolutely. What is number two?
Number two is energy management. Energy management. And energy management, I'm a high energy guy. And I see a lot of guys like me put it all on the table. Les Brown, I relate a lot to Les Brown, the motivational speaker. He would come off stage. He left everything on the stage, and he would come off stage and just pass out, and he's battling his own cancer, right? And he would just come off stage and just pass out. What I learned how to do is when it was time to stop, and when it was time to just sit on the couch, eat watermelon, and watch Shark Tank and just do nothing, right? And this is why I think I'm not a hustler, is because in terms of that hustle culture, right? Like I see so many of these hustle guys. I'm making 10 times the money, and I have 10 times the enjoyment in my life. You know what I mean? So I'm not down with all that. Like that to me is a lot of smoke and mirrors. And that's not, I don't mean to knock anybody who's in the hustle culture, but I'm here to tell you there's a better life for you, right? Where you can manage your time and your energy better and experience the good things in life. Like who look up to you, right? So energy management for me was all about when I was on the air, I gave it what I had. And when I was off, it was just time for me to stop. I got out of this habit of getting up. Like we had a lot of visitors come to the house. People would drop off food and whatnot. Strangers would drop off food. A lot of strangers became friends. I learned that I didn't have to get up and greet them. I learned that I didn't have to be at the birthday party, right? I learned that I didn't have to kind of participate in the live stream and all that kind of stuff. And I think what happened was my presence became more valuable, right? Mm-hmm. It got to this point where like Owen couldn't be here today. And so when Owen could make it, there was more, joy in seeing me there. It's kind of like, and I had more joy for them. Like, I'm a church goer. I love going to church. That's where there's a spiritual like rejuvenation and fulfillment that happens there. People that are my like family, because they pray with you, like they get deep with you. Like it's not like work events, like conferences where you see people that you're very topical with and you say, hi, I love conferences, but church is a little bit deeper, and I hated missing it, right?
Yeah.
There got to a place where I was like, I just can't make it today, and that was okay. So when I was able to make it, I was able to make it because I had the energy for it, and I was able to engage with people in a meaningful way. It was during this time of energy management where I learned a lot about the people in my life and who were energy like leechers, right? And who were energy like fulfillers, right? Like who would inject energy into my life and who would just steal it from me?
Right.
One of my good cancer friends, Tracy, who has just had multiple bouts with cancer, much scarier than mine. She's now in Europe. She's touring in Europe, and I believe in full remission. To my knowledge, nothing has come back for like almost a year, which is so exciting. She just filled me with it. She would come over here, and she didn't have the same faith beliefs as me, but she would come over with like books about Jesus in the New Testament, right? And I was like, it's so neat that like a Buddhist person knows that I'm not really into the Buddha thing, but so she doesn't bring me that stuff. She brings me stuff that I would be into.
Right.
She would sit on my couch and just chat with me. I learned a lot about those people, and I'll tell you, there are people. Interesting story that illustrates this. I was working with a client on a video project right after my diagnosis. Like nobody knew at this point. And she says, it came up in conversation. It's not my client. The person he brought says, oh yeah, I just broke up with my boyfriend. I go, oh, that's too bad. What happened? And she goes, well, he got sick and I'm not going to go through that with him. I got my own thing to worry about. I was like, wow, that was pretty much the most shallow thing I've ever heard a person say.
Right.
And I learned that there were a lot of people in my life that were like that as soon as they found out, they distanced themselves from me. And the reason they did that is because number one is there are books out there that teach this thing that are like, you surround yourself with sickness and you're going to fill your mind with sickness and then sickness will attract itself to you. It's all scientific nonsense. So they want to be around healthy people. And then the other part of that is just awkward. They just don't know what to say. Right.
So actually I had a question about that because I've had a couple of friends who've gone through fights with cancer or other illnesses. And the one thing that they hate answering the question for is, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Because it becomes repetitive to be able to answer that question. And is that one of those things that, in terms of the energy suck, like having to,
all that. And all that, it's part of like removing those people from your life. It's like, watch the blog, right? How you feeling? Like, go check out the blog I just did. You'll know exactly how I'm feeling. But these are people that don't really care. And they're asking to make themselves feel more compassionate, right? They want to feel like they're these we call it virtue signaling, right? So they're kind of like, oh, and I want to show you how much I care about you. And it's like, if you cared, you'd log into the blog and listen to what I'm saying, and so it's a challenge. I had one buddy, good friend. He did the most amazing thing. And he called me up and he said, dude, I really am very uncomfortable in these circumstances. I don't know what to say to you, but I love you and I miss you. And I'm just here for you. And it was just like, dude, Victor, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Right.
And, I helped people. I'm a leader. I was born a leader. And I learn every day how to be a better leader. And I helped people sort of like, I would write these posts that were like, look, don't ask me how I'm feeling. Ask me how I'm feeling right now.
Right.
Right. And I posted this other thing that was like, if you want to check in on me, check in on me, but say something like no need to respond. Right. Because that goes back into that adage, like, oh, I got to respond to all these people now. So managing my energy and removing those energy sucks from my life. And those people that I removed, they're still removed. And I'm not saying like I hate them or anything like that. It's just like, look, here's a person who was not willing to stand by me in my darkest hour. I'm certainly not going to share my brightest hours with them. And I sort of took on that rule of the 5 people you hang around with. So I've identified, and my wife and I have identified who those people are. And when new people come into our life, we evaluate them on that sort of message. We say, is this someone that we want to spend time with or get to know better? And it's either yes or no. And if it's no, it's not because that person's a horrible person. It's because, you know what, like right now we've got this that we're focusing on, time management. And this person here just doesn't fall into that right now. Yep. Change in a week, change in 2 weeks, and we're open to that. But we have to make those decisions constantly in our life. Most people don't. And so many people, Chris, and maybe you've experienced this, are so obsessed with the guys that they went to high school with still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, I went to high school with them. I got to stay in touch. And it's like, dude, you are not obligated to any of that. You got to do what's best for you and your family.
Or you've got the friends from high school that you just keep on your Facebook page because you want them to know how much better your life is than theirs. But that's a whole different thing. Well, I want to respect your time, and I want to respect the amount of energy that I'm sucking out of you. Hopefully, not too much in this. But
anymore. No, but I would love to get to the last one too, because I think the last one
absolutely. So let's jump into number 3.
Number 3 is belief management. You have to manage what you believe. And what I learned is what do I believe? What do I believe about life? What do I believe about death? What do I believe about after death? What do I believe about the value of human beings? What do I believe about chemotherapy? Right? Mm-hmm. Going into, I've actually said to people, you shouldn't do chemo. You should do like an all natural thing. But the moment that I got cancer, my wife and I, we looked at each other and we said, are we going to go that route? We were both like, no, we're not. We're going to go straight chemo and we're going to nuke this thing. That's exactly what we did. And now, as a matter of fact, I'm drinking green juice right now. We're much healthier now. We've always been pretty healthy, which is why chemo was a shock or cancer was a shock. But we're even healthier now because we never wanted to. You have to manage your beliefs. And I think that you have to ask yourself, what do you believe about everything that happens to you in your week, right? Chris, you could probably agree that like the stuff that we go through in our lives, really it's like the same 7 things over and over again. And that's what our life is made up of, right? It's made up of what you believe about revenue and income and work. Do you believe that hustle culture will give you the life you want to lead? For me, it was no.
Right.
I don't want that. For me, it was, what kind of a dad do I believe I should be? And what kind of a dad do I believe you should be? Like, what kind of a dad should a dad be? And I started to develop and research so much about what a dad should be. And I got to tell you, when I meet dads that are deadbeat dads, I have to really implement energy control.
Yep.
And not sort of judge that, right? Because it infuriates me that a man would abandon his children or not make them a stronger priority than they are.
Right. Or think that fatherhood is something that you either have to survive, right? Or do whatever you need to do to stay off of mom's, poop list.
Right.
Or you or you look at it as like you are the at-home babysitter. It's like you're just watching the kids, but you're not imparting knowledge and you're not raising them. That is completely, not the way that family is supposed to exist.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's what I believe. And you got to ask yourself, if you're watching or listening to this, is that what you believe? Like, what do you believe about your role in life? Is it really, to be your company's top salesman? Is it really, is that you're going to turn around at 80 years old and say, I was my company's top salesman? Who's going to care? Nobody will care. And you've got to ask yourself if that's what you're shooting for. Or do you want to turn around at 80 and say, I raised 4 kids that have college degrees and are now raising 4 kids of their own that are, and they're impacting the world. They're serving the poor. They're feeding the homeless, they're donating to nonprofit causes and doing these altruistic type things. And even though I don't show I believe in altruism, in terms of, is it real? We all do these service-based things for some self-fulfillment. But these are good things. And I think that we can all, across any political belief spectrum, we believe these. Where do you want your life to shine? And for me, being a better husband, being a better father has made me a better businessman. It's forced me to organize my business better so that I can spend more time with my kids. Our business better, right? I hired a live stream producer. I have 2 live stream producers that produce live streams for our clients. One of our new clients just launched their first show this afternoon. It looks fantastic. It's Owen video quality,
right?
And forcing myself to be more effective there by hiring somebody has enabled me to launch that new show, for which I'm getting paid my profit. Jason's getting paid. The client is happy, and I didn't have to spend any time there. I was able to put my kids to bed last night. I was able to, I take wherever I go, I take a kid with me, right?
Yep.
And in that car ride, my kids know, Dad's going to talk to me about something. And it's important, because I'm constantly like, you got to learn about women. Women are different than men, and you got to understand. Like, I'm teaching open doors for them, and if a woman doesn't want you to open a door, respect that. You know what I mean? But you continue to open the door for the next one. That type of thing. And
right.
We're teaching them sort of classic chivalry, and all the studies everywhere show that women appreciate that in men. And so I'm raising my boys to be good men. I've got a little daughter. She's 3. I'm really just teaching her not to mix the Play-Doh together because I'm so purple Play-Doh,
Yeah. Well, or it comes back looking like somebody put a couple of GI Joes in a blender and it's just all camouflaged. You have no idea what it is.
Oh yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, exactly.
Well, we've been talking to Owen Video, who is giving us some amazing tips here. Time management, energy management, belief management. Those 3 biggest things that you've learned from kicking cancer's butt. Owen, I can't say enough. Thank you for jumping in. Jeff and Jason and all those others who have joined us and watching online. Thank you guys for tuning in as well. For anybody who's watching this right now, if there is one thing that you got from this today's program that you think anybody and everybody needs to hear from, at least share it with one person. Just take this one video, hit the share button, invite them to like this, and follow our show. We're going to have an amazing season ahead of talking to people just like Owen, who have gone through some real stuff. They've been in combat. They've been in Cirque du Soleil. They've been gold medal athletes. They've been in movies and things. And those are real events that we want to hear what they learned and how they've applied it to their lives. So, Owen, thank you again for joining us on today's show. I wish you all the best. I hope to be able to appear on one of yours again here soon. But if there's anything else,
you came on the podcast. We had a great show.
Yeah, and if anybody has questions related to this, what's the best way somebody should reach out and follow you?
You know what? You want to go to thevideospot.net. I've got all my social links there. I've got a real good understanding there of what we do and how you can connect with us. And I would love to know that you came from the show. Reach out to me. I'm a pretty social guy. I manage my time, so you may not hear from me right away. But please follow what we're doing. And if you want to be inspired, if you want to grow as a husband and as a father and as a business person, I'm the guy that you want to follow. And so I hope that you will.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Owen, for joining us. Again, this has been the 3 Things I Learned podcast. If you enjoyed the show, share it with one person. And until then, we'll see you next time.